studios in New York City. This is Charlie Rose.
Martin Scorsese and Leonardo DiCaprio here. Their creative collaboration has been one of the most fruitful in film history. In 2002, they first worked on Gangs of New York. Since then, they've partnered on The Aviator, The Departed, and Shutter Island. They've just completed their fifth film. It tells the story of the rise and fall of Jordan Belfort. Belfort made millions through financial scheming until he was brought down by the government and sent to prison. Here is the trailer for the new film, The Wolf of Wall Street.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Is that your car on the lot?
Yeah.
It's a Jag?
Yeah.
How much money you make?
I don't know, 72,000 last month.
You show me a pay stub for $72,000 on it, I quit my job right now and I work for you. Hey, listen, I quit. Yeah, I'm going into stocks.
My name is Jordan Belfort. At the tender age of 22, I headed to the only place that befit my high-minded ambitions.
Name of the game? Move the money from your client's pocket into your pocket.
But if you can make your client's money at the same time, it's advantageous to everyone, correct?
No.
I started my own firm out of an abandoned auto body shop. We will be targeting the wealthiest 1% of Americans.
I love three things. I love my country, I love Jesus Christ, and I love making people rich. Hello?
But I needed to mold them in my own image. With this script, I'm going to teach each and every one of you to be the best.
This is the greatest company in the world!
I was becoming a legend.
Aren't you married?
Yeah, but married people can't have friends.
We're not gonna be friends.
I was making so much money, I didn't know what to do with it.
$26,000 for one dinner!
Dad, we're not poor anymore.
Tell them about the sides. What are these sides? They cure cancer?
The sides did cure cancer, that's the problem. They were there, that's why they were expensive. 22 billion in 3 hours!
The real question is this, was all this legal? Absolutely not.
Hang you up from the heavens.
He's got pictures of your whole inner circle. This is bad.
It's okay.
Rub my temple.
You're all right.
This right here is the land of opportunity.
You just tried to bribe a federal officer.
This is America.
This is my home!
Good for you, little man. Me, the little man.
The show goes on! They're gonna need to send in the National Guard to take me out, because I ain't going nowhere!
We don't work for you, man.
You have my money taped to your boobs. Technically, you do work for me.
I'm pleased to have Martin Scorsese and Leonardo DiCaprio at this table. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So you're watching the trailer. Just tell me what's going through your mind as you're watching what you have spent a lot of time putting together.
What an insane endeavor this was. Really, truly.
Insane.
It was insane.
Yeah.
I mean, we were taking on material that I think was very hard to get financed in the first place. I mean, I keep talking about it as, a modern-day fall of the Roman Empire, or like a modern-day Caligula, but it was, and the hedonism was rampant, and it was a depiction of Jordan's biography and how honest he was about his addiction to wealth and power and greed during his time in Wall Street and all of that. Yeah, absolutely. But it was a wild shoot. It really was.
Yeah, I mean, we only finished the film about a few weeks ago. Yeah, exactly. And so seeing the trailer again, I'm tired all over again just looking at it. But no, it was something that I didn't. You had brought it to me. Yeah. You brought the script to me.
And you had to beat out some people, too. I mean, someone said that Brad Pitt was interested and other people were interested.
That's all the stuff that happens behind closed doors that I don't really understand. But I went after this book quite aggressively.
But there was competition. But you wanted it because it was a story that you wanted to tell because it was,
Well, look, I mean, this is a satire and it's a dark comedy, but so was Dr. Strangelove.
Yeah.
We take a funny approach to this, but ultimately what we're talking about is a very serious subject matter, and it represents something within our very culture.
Yeah.
I mean,
and there are winners and losers, and lots of money, and people get hurt, and people make money, and and all of that, and people go to jail, and
absolutely.
That's why I'm sorry, but I don't think I ever thought of it as a satire. I just thought it was a straight story.
I mean, it is an accurate depiction.
It's an accurate depiction,
but their own life was a satire in a lot of ways.
Oh yeah, sure. But I think my feeling is not to separate yourself from it. No, this is it. I think this is really it. This is the mentality. And we were pushing it, but believe me, you couldn't. I mean, actually, we just scratched the surface of elements. I think the elements that were there, the story could have told, or whatever. But what I wanted to do at that point was, if we can't tell them all, compress it into such a way that we would throw the audience right into the maelstrom of this kind of thinking.
Yeah, that's part of what happens if you're in there. You do get caught up.
Yes.
You almost feel like you're inside the room where all this madness is happening. And some things you might not have even seen before.
And a lot of it's just truly unbelievable. I mean, I read this book and I couldn't believe that this man led this lifestyle and still survived.
But didn't you, in fact, actually talk to him during the making of the film, or in some way?
Quite incessantly. Yeah. Quite incessantly.
So tell us who he was. I mean, we know his story in the book, but you just said one interesting thing. He was truthful.
Yes.
To himself.
That's what I think I appreciated most, was that he, to him, the book, I think, was a cautionary tale of his time on Wall Street. And since that time, he's a much different person, and he's actually depicted as we depict him at the end of this movie, of somebody that's going around talking about the dangers of greed and trying to, get into the business sector with some sort of moral foundation.
Kind of Tony Robbins of his time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But he was incredibly candid and honest with me about what he went through. And a lot of times we would talk about sections in the book and say, not only was it that bad, I was 10 times worse. And I'm going to tell you why. And I really appreciated that honesty, because I think, from Marty's perspective, he wanted to have a little bit of distance from that subject. But I needed to speak to him constantly, just to get, the nuances and the detail of what these scenes were like, what this lifestyle was like.
And what story were you telling? Just so I want to nail it down with you two.
I think when I found my way in the material, because when I first read it, I felt that I had in a sense visited this before in other ways, and so but I began to realize that it is about in a sense, you could say, touch upon Goodfellas or Casino or pictures like that.
Right.
And in a way, here though, there's a veneer of respectability.
Yeah.
And what I was fascinated then by the possibility of a person who has that has the talent of persuasion.
Yeah.
And
a superb
salesman can sell anything. And when that occurs, and when he's able to move, or he or she is able to move ahead that way, and there is no restraint.
Yeah.
What do we do? What if we were?
There are no censors. I mean,
there are no censors. What would we do in a case like that? I mean, in our own way, do we give into our weaknesses?
Yeah.
It's not only just him. It's the confidence man.
That's the kind of moral.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm put myself above that. I mean, I've had my own problems. I've had my own problems in my life. So the thing is, in terms of the confidence man. The confidence man takes your confidence. You confide in him.
Yeah.
You trust. You give him your trust, and then he betrays you. And the confidence man is always charming. It could be in business. It could be in art. It could be in love.
Yeah. You have said that the speeches were some of the hardest stuff, because that's where you saw the art of salesmanship. You saw how much he believed, almost, or did, what he was saying, and it was almost messianic and.
Well, I had been thinking about Terry Winter wrote this incredible screenplay, really catered for Marty and myself, and I'd been thinking about these speeches for almost 6 years, and mechanically breaking them down. But it wasn't really until I was on that stage where it kind of took on a life of its own. I kind of felt closer to what Jordan must have felt during that time period, where he almost created a cult for himself, and being consumed by that adoration and the power of, you know, being able to provide great amounts of wealth to this mass of people that were worshiping him. And when I got on that stage, it kind of took on this incredible life of its own, and I kind of felt like I was Bono or some rock star, even though I knew that these you know, actors were paid to clap every single time I was shouting at them. You get this incessant need to you know push them forward, and it almost became like this you know, Braveheart speech or cry for battle, except I was persuading them to go out there and, you know, essentially screw as many people over as possible.
Do not hang up the phone until you've got the sale.
Right, exactly.
You know?
That's right.
What's the magic here between the two of you? This is, as I said, the fifth film. I mean, do you achieve something with an actor so that it's unspoken, you know the potential of him, you know...
I think what's happened is that we go picture by picture, and I don't know. In terms of, I think it really clicked on. Got to know each other on Gangs in New York, but it really clicked on Aviator. I think, in that I saw that you know, not only the range is there, but range. I mean, you can keep asking, and you keep getting. That's what I mean by the range, and you can go further. And so. The main thing for me is that you know, we have similar sensibilities, or similar tastes, and interests.
What does that mean? Or how does it play itself out?
Attracting certain characters. Not necessarily afraid to take certain risks. You know, with characters.
Dealing with moral issues as well.
Moral issues, yes.
Right and wrong, sin,
right and wrong, and
temptation.
in between, and where the line
Jealousy,
is.
Yes. Crossing the line.
Oh, that sort of thing. You know, a man who flies planes and can't touch a doorknob. That's fascinating.
Yes, that's right.
And then
that
we get
was
into
Howard Hughes.
Yeah, and then we get into The Departed, and a sense of all these elements that came into that story with Bill Monahan's script, of the sense of his own guilt as a character who couldn't even sit still in a place and look over his shoulder. Somebody's going to come in behind him and get him for whatever he's done in his life. And sure enough, he is the informer. You know, but that and the Shutter Island, where we even that was one of the hardest, I think, because you can't pin the character down at all, because he's many different people. And you don't even know the stories. The stories may not exist ultimately by the end of the picture. And so we found that was a labyrinth going through that. But it took a while for me to come around to this one. And again, that's not necessarily
coming around to this
story, the Wolf of Wall Street, because what happens is that it isn't like we're going to make another film together right away. It's the atmosphere, the tone of it has to be. We have to agree upon that. We have to be in the same city, so to speak, in a way.
And you get that by conversations about the movie that you want to make.
Conversations, and you know, saying, well, the problem with a film like this is that you can't. There's no sense, especially at my age, going into a situation with a group of people who are going to, let's say, you know, a studio situation where they're going to say, well, there's maybe too much drug taking, or there's too much sex. So there's too. At this point, there's no sense in me making the film, because then I would just be constantly distracted by the levels of restrictions. And constantly,
you want it. You're ready, no part of that.
I can't do it. I mean, eventually,
I can't do it.
You simply can. You get to the phone, you get to the door. Well, no, it's not like you're being. There's no sense in it, because there's only so many breaths you can take.
So many sunsets to see. Exactly right. That's exactly right. So
here,
why do it?
So here he pointed out you were involved with Red Granite, which made it very, very possible for us to
make a movie that could do what you need.
We needed to have the freedom to and
to write on a large canvas.
Exactly, it all worked. It all goes through the way it did Mean Streets and everything else. It goes right through the MPAA and everything else. We towed the line, and this is the film we were able to make, and we feel comfortable with it. But it's very hard, you know, because you have to deliver certain things the way the Hollywood marketplace is now. There's certain kinds of blockbuster pictures that they have to sell. I don't believe I'm I'm made for that. You know, they need a certain kind of product, which is theirs, which is fine. It's just I can't do. I can't do it. I would try.
Well,
but
you don't need to do
I
it.
don't, you know.
Now, but within that context, somebody will say, well, hey, most movies are an hour and a half, and here you have a 3-hour movie. Do you simply say, this is what I need to tell the story that I was born to tell with this story? Not a minute less, not a minute more.
No, I tried to cut it as much as possible. And this is where we when the dust settled.
Yeah.
This is where we were, Thelma and I.
Tell them who Thelma is.
Thelma Schoonmaker is my editor since Raging Bull, since 1980. And both of us, we moved the editing equipment into my house.
Yes.
And just worked there day and night. I worked there day and night for a year on the picture. I really tried to get it as tight as possible, but then to take the risks of creating this whirlwind of a picture and then suddenly scenes that would take long dialogue scenes that would stop you think it'd stop the flow, but because of what they're discussing, for example, you know, they have an event at the beginning of the film where they pick up little people and toss them against targets.
Yes.
Now, in order to do that in an office, you must have a meeting. Now, you know, if you're sitting at a meeting, you'd be discussing, well, what about safety? What about this? Imagine what could come out of those meetings. So, so to put yourself in that mindset, you know, and to play it long enough to make you actually start thinking about the realities.
In this case, he's also the narrator.
Yes.
You know, was that a choice you had to make?
I think that was there.
It was in the screenplay.
Yeah, that was there.
Yeah.
You know. And did you give him a lot of room for improvisation in this? Or do you always do that with him because you know what he can do?
Yes, but I think in case of Shutter Island, it was different, and certainly Aviator. But here, I think we were able to.
There's scenes in this movie.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking about the scene when you're going back out to the car.
Mm-hmm.
You know? I mean, you crawling around, not knowing where the hell you are.
No, I mean, that was what was interesting about this film, I think, more than other films that we've done, because a lot of films we've done, I think, have been not beholden to a specific plot structure, but certain things needed to happen to result in a very specific ending. And this was a lot more freeform. It was kind of like organized chaos. We knew we weren't taking on classic American literature here. We're ultimately, you know, the character became the plot. And I think more so than any of the other films we've done, there was a lot to discover in this movie. There was a lot to discover about the very nature of what we were trying to do. And it really didn't come alive until we were on set and we started
that's
working.
What I was going to ask. I mean, if someone became, once you were there doing it, you saw the possibilities of doing more.
I mean, it was just about everyone taking on this hedonistic attitude and giving into every temptation possible. And every actor sort of had that, you know, air about them on set. And so it allowed for all these insane possibilities every single day. I mean, everyone would kind of push the envelope. But what was interesting more than anything, and I think in this process...
It's the most fun set you've ever been on?
Yes, it was, but it was hard to get there in the morning sometimes because I didn't know what was going to happen.
It was like an avalanche. No, but the truth is, I mean, we improvised a lot of this beforehand, but then when we got on set and working with the other actors, it spiraled into a multitude of different directions, and it was very freeing in a lot of ways.
It really was. And there's certain things that happen. I mean, you know, if it says he crawls across the floor, the ground to get to his car and open the door and get in the car, well, the door opens up. I didn't realize that. I forgot about it. I didn't realize that until we got until they told me last week. Oh, I forgot. And so, now what do we do? It was up to him.
Use your feet.
Yeah. I didn't know how it was going to get that door open.
I didn't know either.
Until we got there.
He said, should I use my foot? I said, it looks like Jacques Tati or Jerry Lewis or you know.
So, what's the magic between the two of you? I mean, what does he bring? I mean, when you work with somebody and you can work with almost anybody you want to. And you come back to a man you've worked with 4 times before this.
Well, look, I mean, I went into this venture and aggressively trying to find something to work with Marty on with Gangs of New York, and I found that screenplay. And, you know, ever since I got my first film, it was really, you know, my father who pointed out, this great cinematic relationship with De Niro and Scorsese, and started showing me these films. And when you feel that impact at a very early age, it makes quite an impression on you. And so, once I got the opportunity, in essence, to, finance pictures with my name, he was really the first guy that I, aggressively went after to collaborate on something with. And since then, needless to say, the man knows more about cinema as an art form than anyone I've ever met in my life. Yeah. And so every movie has been this incredible education for me, really. And I've learned a lot more about, what it is to be an actor. And almost these kind of mantras. I mean, it's not this conscious thing that he does with me. He's not sitting me down and saying, "Look, kid, this is how you do it." For both of us, it's a discovery process, and it's a constant conversation,
and a constant collaboration.
Absolutely, and in this film, I keep saying this over and over, but he said one thing to me, and that was, "Look, we were very skeptical about putting these people up on film and the likability of guys that have, in a sense, destroyed the American economy, or at least that mentality with these characters." And he said, "Look, as long as you portray people as authentically as you possibly can, and you don't try to sugarcoat their intentions, and you give an accurate portrayal of their very nature, audiences will go along with you on that." And that kind of clicked with me for the entire filmmaking process, and I kind of realized, that's in a lot of ways the way every film should be done.
Did you have to go ahead?
No, I was just going to say I was hoping that one of the reasons I resisted at first, I didn't want to make any apologies for the way they behaved, in a sense, or try to be what's not apologies, but to even create a kind of I don't know.
You just want to capture the authenticity.
Yeah, capture the authenticity, but put you in the mindset and to see maybe more out of frustration of the situation. Yeah. And the way things are now than anything else. And said, well, just go ahead and behave that way.
You never had a moment you said, I've got to find a way to make him likable.
No, not at all.
And what you had to do is make...
In fact, we resisted that as much as possible.
That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, there were people saying there were a lot of pressure for us to do certain things. I said, I think it'll just be imposing it on there. I said, he is likable in the sense that the Confidence Man is likable. Yeah. You see.
This is when Jordan meets a sexy woman named Naomi.
A couple more times.
That scene.
Yes.
You should see what happens right after that.
I was hoping. I'm glad you cut there.
No,
I'm glad you stopped.
If you give me more tape, more film, I'll show more of it.
That was actually one of the hardest scenes to cut.
Yeah.
Actually, we were cutting that to the last minute.
Why was that hard?
I don't know, there was something about the looks or the glances, how many times he's going to ask about the jet skis, all of that, take that out, then the edge, if you do too much, the edge that you had with Blair would have been lost, and it was just one of them, when to cut to his wife, when to cut to Hildy coming over.
This is the thing about filmmaking that people don't even think about.
Right.
It disappears, but all of a sudden, it just didn't happen that way.
I know.
It happened because it was a director and actor, and, who knew what the possibilities were.
But no, a lot of, Marty's obviously brilliant on set, but the process that he has with Thelma is pretty miraculous. I mean, they're old school. They sit there and it's one-on-one, and they cut this film frame by frame, and it's like a sculpture for them. They're not rushed in their process, and it's this constant dialogue between the two of them. They've been collaborating for such a long period of time, and that's where so much of, it's a cliche, but so much of the magic happens in his filmmaking.
In fact, you've said that's where you're the happiest.
Yes. Yeah, we had the best time, Thelma and I, in that way. And
because you've got a lot of great performances, and you can decide how you use them, how you bring them in, the music, how the music plays.
Yes, exactly. I work out the music, but the thing is, of course, if we're in trouble, we know the trouble is there. We have it. There are ways to go. There are people to call. We work out things. We work it out together without 1,000 people around us, and the clock ticking away.
Can you take a good performance and make it into a great performance in the editing room?
I think you can. I think you can. I think it's in the eyes.
You did it with me.
You're here to say he can.
Well, they're all good. Margot Robbie is fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
She's, she plays Naomi, and everybody in the picture just came up to a certain level that.
And Jonah Hill.
Jonah Hill. Yes.
The great
Especially-
Jonah Hill.
The great Jonah Hill.
A great person and a great. I mean, he was really, in a lot of ways, essential to the tempo of this movie. I think that he came in with the right attitude. You know, right off the bat, he said, "I know who these people are. I've seen this world. I've seen people consumed by wealth and greed, and I can depict this character better than anyone." So I immediately, told Marty about it, and they had this incredible meeting. And right away, he was hired.
Came in, he won an audition.
Yeah.
And he read a scene.
He wanted to audition.
Yeah, but I didn't pay attention to the audition. It's just him.
Yeah.
He's very good.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's an incredible improvisational actor.
Oh, yeah.
You said, in fact, as good as you've seen.
Some of probably the best improvisational actor I've ever worked with. I mean, it's amazing when you can, have a certain thought process for what you think a scene's going to be, and then somebody comes in and tears everything apart in front of you, and you have to ride with it. You have to ride with it, and you have to react to it in real time. And all of a sudden, it becomes something entirely different. And that was the freedom of the attitude that we had while making this movie. And
he would stimulate you to do things that you hadn't even imagined doing.
Absolutely.
Oh, yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
In fact, a couple of times. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, a couple of times. Remember a couple of times where you and PJ and a number of the guys had to actually try to stop him.
Like, shut up.
Please shut up and be quiet. And then he would stop. He wouldn't say anything. Then I said, "Why aren't you talking?" He said, "They told me to be quiet." Right?
Yeah. This is where Donnie, the character that Jonah Hill plays, tells Jordan he wants to work for him. Here it is. Exactly. That's what. Show me what that is.
The timing issue is literally when you hear, "Hey, Paulie, how are things?" We went back and forth on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the problem, and also when to jump it. In other words, to try to break the form, to get the impression that the picture is in a conventional narrative form in terms of editing, but then to push and break the continuity, and not. I don't mean continuity in terms of just mismatches. I mean massive mismatches. They don't matter because the rhythm of the story should go with the rhythm of the way they're thinking. And so the images should go the same way. And we just kept cutting, ripping things apart, really. So a lot of that stuff doesn't match at all.
Okay, I want to introduce one more character. This is your father, played by Rob Reiner. Your father, Max, who's really interesting in this. Here's a scene between Jordan and his father.
Stop.
For an actor, as we were watching this scene, I mean, you had a lot of different kinds of things to work with.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to stretch yourself and broaden yourself and think of all the things you've done, including the 4 films for him before this, I would think this is like, this is a huge menu.
Yes. Oh, like I said, there was an incredible freedom in this process. And, once you set up the characters whose one and only concern is their own indulgence, the script was set up that way. It's almost like this drug-infused ride that we go on where people are incredibly motivated by greed, and we don't really see the wake of their destruction. We didn't need to do, very consciously, we didn't cut away to the ramifications of their actions. We didn't cut away to the people on the other end of the line to see how they were affecting, the guy that just lost his mortgage. It was this hypnotic, voyage forward, constantly consuming everything within your path. And when you set up that kind of attitude on set, it's every actor's sort of dream. You have no moral compass and you have nobody to answer to except yourself. So it freed all of us up, really, I think.
There really is no moral landscape there anymore,
in
a sense. And if you do have any moral qualms, just take a few drugs and get some of the hookers
the drugs thing, the Quaaludes is just,
Right. Yes. That Quaalude sequence. It almost became a film within the film.
Yeah.
It did.
Yeah, it really did.
It
was through I think it was a lot through the pre-production process where we were combining different scenes and adding tension to it, bringing in the sort of Popeye cartoon. What would happen
I couldn't believe that when I saw that. Yeah.
Well, we were talking with Terry and you and me, and all of a sudden Popeye's on I said, the kid is there. The kid is watching cartoons. Says, Popeye, fantastic. Oh, wait, spinach.
Cocaine. It's natural progression. No, but then also the fact that Donnie, the fact that he apologizes to me with some of the most powerful Quaaludes on the marketplace because he messed up a money deal, and then you follow these two guys as he simultaneously finds out that the FBI is, bugging his home, and then Donnie's on the phone with the Swiss bankers. He's got to get back simultaneously. They fight with each other. I don't want to ruin the whole thing, but it's a very
you're making it more interesting rather than ruining it. I mean, there's also the moment when he's wearing a wire and he has to tell him, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, and that's sort of who he is.
Yeah.
I can't not tell you.
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
incriminate yourself.
Well, I think that I think Jordan at that time was very, very morally twisted, obviously, but that was one of the key moments in the script between those two characters where he can't quite, he can't quite rat on his friend. He's got to let him know what he's doing. And ultimately, the landscape of where they were at is so corrupt in its own right that it envelops him and all the characters that surround them. So that's an interesting moment in the movie, too.
And who was it that played his wife, Naomi?
Margot Robbie. Margot Robbie, Australian actress. She just really came in. We auditioned a lot of girls, and it's amazing.
She was really good.
Yes, excellent actress. And I saw.
I hadn't seen her. That's why I didn't know.
Oh, she's amazing.
Well, there's something about Australian actors too. I mean, I got to work in The Great Gatsby, and they just work 3 times harder than everybody else. They're this isolated little island. They know about American movies. They work their ass off, and she came in and just
she knocked it out.
She really did.
Oh boy!
Now, did you give her much direction, or
she didn't need much? No, really? She didn't need much. I mean, we could see it right away in the audition.
Yeah.
She came in.
Now, what did you see?
That she had.
She was the character you imagined.
She was the character, or she was able to handle him just by a look.
Oh, yes, I remember the first
the
look.
eyes. That's
the
it.
Second.
Yeah, that was it.
When he came to her house,
and especially we did in the audition scene. We did the scene where she wakes him up, rather rudely with a glass of water.
Yeah, right.
And she stood up to him no matter what he said or did.
I thought that was interesting too. I mean, the tension there in terms of the way she stood up to you.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, she was not a pushover.
No. She knows what
and
she's
that was
doing.
necessary, I assume.
Yes.
That character.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. But it was also necessary for him to deny as much as possible. I mean, you could forget things like that were going on. It slips your mind.
Dominatrix, handles.
Oh, yeah, I saw that part.
Yeah, he just slipped his mind.
Now, did he like that? That's what my first thought when I saw that scene was.
Oh, yeah.
This is Jordan.
Well,
Jordan must have liked it.
Yeah, he liked all of it. He liked all of it.
He didn't even remember for a while there.
But no, my attitude with all of this, which is why it wasn't embarrassing in a lot of stuff, is embarrassing. And I played it like kind of like he was a Roman emperor, and he was indulging in every possible thing that he could. Yeah. I mean, short of maidens feeding us grapes, there's everything in a modern day context in this movie.
Now, what do you have to do to make sure you don't have ratings problems?
Well, I was able to, as I said, I've had a long time with the ratings board since '73. But here, they just really asked us to tone down as what we could of the accumulation of the sexual images.
In other words, the sum total of it?
The sum total of it, yeah. So in certain areas. And so we went in, but by the way, in our rough cuts, and when we were screening it for our friends and friends of friends of friends, very often, you're cutting the picture, you're trimming it. The first cut was 4 hours and 5 minutes. So, where is it too? Well, there's too much. And that came up a lot. It came up a lot. So it was not just MPAA. It was a lot of people, my friends whom I trust, saying, we get it here. Maybe you can want to move on.
And you listen to them in terms of
in certain places. Then we say, which I can't give up that shot. I can't give up. Well, try this one. No, I want to go with that one.
Well, what was the hardest thing for you to give up?
I think we're okay. I don't feel bad about any of it. I think the plane. There was a big
party.
That
you had to edit a little bit.
We trimmed on that, but that was enough. I think it was fine. I hadn't devised a shot for it anyway. If I had devised a very clear shot for it, I'd say that's one thing. Instead, I took the shot and made it in the hotel room afterwards, which was a overhead tracking shot of the debris. That's where the shot is. But in the plane, it's showing what they're doing. So in order to tighten and everything else, I had no problem.
In other words, this is the director's cut.
Yeah, that's basically it. There's some frames here and there. That's about all. Glimpses and.
We're seeing the director's cut.
Yes, we are.
Aren't we?
Yes. We really are. Yeah.
And thank God for that. So when you're going through all of this and making this movie, what was the hardest thing for you?
Well, I think the hardest part was
because they're on drugs all the time.
All the time was just the pre-production process in a lot of ways. I think that you know, constantly reaffirming to ourselves the type of movie that we wanted to do, the fact that we wanted to take a lot of chances, and really questioning, what how an audience would react to all of this stuff. We had to kind of reaffirm that within one another. There was a lot of different sequences where the character could have gone another direction, but we kind of said to ourselves, look, I mean, there was one in particular where it starts to get very dark towards the end of the movie, and Jordan does some pretty horrific things to his wife, and I remember somebody bringing up the subject of whether the audience would still be with our lead at that point, and whether we'd betray an audience. And Marty and I kind of looked at each other and said, look, we're going to portray this guy the way he depicted himself.
Because you thought authenticity would make him more appealing.
More truthful to what we'd been doing.
Into that place.
Yeah, we were there. Why at that point go the other way?
Right.
And we just didn't feel it to be more, we had to be a little more truthful to what we felt, also about how we felt. Maybe you feel about yourself, or you feel about your own self, and you feel about yourself in situations like that, or if you, or in points in your life of crisis, and how you behaved in the past, and who you judge over it.
When sitting here talking to you, I get the impression that you guys think you made the movie you wanted to make.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely, and that's very rare.
Exactly, and that's my second point.
It's incredibly rare to truly get to make the movie, especially on this scale, because when you're making almost an American epic about greed and indulgence and hedonism like this, you really have to cater to a studio in a lot of ways. You have to cater to the audience, and this we had financiers and collaborators that said, look, not only do we want you to put this material up on screen, but we want you to push the envelope with it. Be free artistically to go to places that you never imagined. And so, that was one of the big motivators with me to try to get him to do this, because I knew that there weren't that many directors that would really take the time to explore that within the characters. I mean, I keep referencing this one line in Goodfellas, but that's out of the experimentation with the actors getting to play, even if it's not intricate to the structure of the plot. You're capturing something about the very essence of who they are, which ultimately shapes the course of what the movie is. He's interested in character studies. He's interested in what the actors do to capture the essence of who these people are.
Now, what's the line in Goodfellas?
What am I here to amuse you? I kept asking him about that, and he said, look, that wasn't even in the script. The guys just got around and they started talking. But to me, that signifies everything that the movie's about. Well, they're at a table, they're friends, but there's a danger there that if you cross a line with me,
well, in 1 second, that's the essence of the lifestyle. The essence of the lifestyle is in 1 second it can change. You're dead.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that actually is a Joe Pesci thing that actually happened to him. And so he said, "How about this?" I said,
"What do you mean happened to Joe?"
No, I think it's something that he has experienced in his life. Yes.
I see. If you cross me,
Well, they were talking, everything was fine. All of a sudden, it changed.
Yeah.
And when it changed, you had to think fast.
Yeah.
Goodfellas
is one of your favorite films.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I think of his films,
Raging Bull.
The one that really moved me the most was Taxi Driver, I think. Yeah. I remember watching it at 15 years old and being transfixed with Travis Bickle, because I was locked into this character, and I felt such incredible empathy towards. I understood him. I understood his loneliness, and then he deceived me. Yeah. And at the point he deceived me, I said, who is this guy that I'm watching? Who is this person? And I was identifying with him, and I was with him on this whole journey, and all of a sudden, this is not the person that I thought he was. And to me, it's just really the greatest independent film ever made. It really is.
Schrader's extraordinary.
Paul Schrader.
Paul Schrader's script.
I think you had something to do with it.
No, but Paul went through a lot on that one. He did a beautiful, delivered this. It was amazing. And De Palma gave me the script. Brian De Palma.
Is that right?
He said, "You got to read this thing." Yeah.
So you made it.
But you were going around Hollywood with that script in hand saying, this is the movie that I want to do.
Yeah,
this
and get away from me. I hadn't made Mean Streets yet.
Right.
See? Yeah. Get away, kid.
Get
and then
outta
suddenly we
here.
did Mean Streets, and they said, oh, but De Niro and you, different.
No one's going to make that picture.
I was like so annoying.
Didn't Bobby De Niro suggest you should take a look at him way back
absolutely.
when, before
that's how this
Gangs of New
started.
York or somewhere?
Yeah. Before that, it was This Boy's Life. And then I always tell the story because I hadn't seen it in the theater, Gilbert Grape.
Right.
And it was on television, but I thought it was a documentary at first because the acting was so...
Yeah.
I hadn't recognized anyone. I didn't know you in it. And then I sat and watched the entire picture, and we were amazed, you know.
Are you now able to make the movies you want to make? In other words, are you at this place, which is a good place to be? I mean, it's hard to find ones that you want to make, I assume, or maybe there are a lot of them.
I'm trying. I mean, really, I have a production company, but it was really set up selfishly to find material outside of the studio system, stuff that I found a little bit different outside the box, that could be shaped from the very beginning and catered to be something that I wanted to do as an actor. Because a lot of times, once it goes through the system, it could be a great premise, but it can turn into something entirely different. So, you know, even in my career, I think that films like Aviator or films like Blood Diamond that I did are almost impossible to get financed, no matter who's a part of it. And it really takes, you know, we always talk about the 70s, the age of the director, the age of the blockbuster, but I've even seen it in the last 10 years. The business changes, and thank God for, I think, outside sources of people that have run into, you know, into wealth that are fans of movies and say, look, I think there's a marketplace for something else. There's a marketplace for an epic of this nature that doesn't check all the boxes of, you know, explosions and, you know, fighting and robots or whatever. You know, you can make a movie like this. We're gamblers. We're gonna take a risk on this type of film, and thank God that there's, you know, people out there that fill that gap, because a lot of the films that we're seeing now, I think that are different, are coming from these outside sources.
Which raises the question of television. You know, take House of Cards, take...
Yes, exactly.
You know, Breaking Bad.
I mean, Terry Winter, who wrote this script, that's how we met, and we came up with the HBO series Boardwalk Empire from this experience.
Right.
Yeah. And so, but what's fascinating to me, because what we had wanted to try, I think, in the 70s too, was to... it was going that way. Pictures were getting longer. Bertolucci had made Novecento at 5.5 hours. You know, I mean, the films are getting longer. The idea of exploring character and story and atmosphere to almost like novels in a way that can go on for, The Sopranos went on for 60 hours.
Yeah.
You see. And so this is something that may be the place for the development of the new cinema, really. I mean, but the new cinema, the old cinema just was what it was, and it's gone. That's it. So we just move on, and we take advantage of what is new, the new technology, the new marketplace. If the new marketplace makes films like, you know, that are bigger blockbusters, some of them are very good. Fine, there's a place for that. But it's important for the young people to know that there's other kinds of cinema. And there has to be, we have to fight for the space to make those pictures, whether it's like, you know, the Anderson films or Coen Brothers or Alexander Payne.
Wes Anderson.
And Paul Thomas and the Coen Brothers and Alexander Payne. There's got to be places where they should be supported. You know, that was the thing. In the 70s, they were supported. I don't feel that way now. I think it's a struggle for I may be speaking out of turn for them, I don't know, but I do feel there's a struggle for even the most moderate budget picture to be made. And if you don't get it made, or if you do get it made and people don't see it, because there's always that problem of the distribution too, getting to see it. Right. There are pictures you don't see anymore. They go straight to video. You know, of course now, ultimately, pictures will be shown, you know, through the satellite.
There are all kinds of platforms now.
All kinds of platforms,
which is remarkable.
Which is great. But it's now this period. George Lucas was talking about it. The period of like 10 years. It's going to be of a dark zone in a way. We're not going to know exactly where things are going to land in terms of how these things will be presented 10 years from now.
But at the same time, I mean, and thinking about the technology, because you still are in love with film and not.
Yes.
You know.
He did this movie in film.
Is that right? Yeah, we shot most of it.
But you shot nothing for dailies or anything?
Oh, no. We did. The dailies were video, but I did shoot digital at night.
Yeah.
Because we can't light the streets anymore.
Yeah.
I can't. It takes too much time.
And you have so much easier to shoot.
Yeah. You can really, beautiful cameras are good. Yeah.
So you combine film and digital?
Yes.
Yeah. To sit here, his enthusiasm is so great, isn't it?
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, after all the films and all the awards and all the achievements, it's like you're talking to someone who's 21 years old.
Yeah.
You know, and has all these skills and all this love of the craft of making films.
And he gives you a great appreciation for film as an art form, you know, and sometimes that's undermined, I think. I think people, to me, it's the great modern art form as well, but, you know, not to speak for him, but I keep thinking of, you know, the stories he tells as a young man watching movies incessantly over and over with his father, and the impression that he must have had of what has been achieved in cinema's history. And I think that if there's anything we share, I share that too. I share a great appreciation for what's been done before me. And it's almost like this, you know, it's reaching for the clouds. You're trying to constantly achieve something that great within your lifetime, and you know you have to keep questioning yourself. Did I do that? And I don't think that's a thirst that's ever truly quenched. Right. You know, you keep pushing yourself forward and wanting to achieve something as great as the great as came before you.
Because you stand on the shoulders of giants, as they say,
exactly.
and you have a responsibility,
masters,
you know, to carry the tradition and not interrupt the process.
That's one of the things with our relationship too. That he'll bring to me, did you this incredible film by this guy named Tarkovsky?
Yeah.
I said, oh, yes. Which one? Solaris. Oh, yes, Solaris. Oh, okay. So let's take this. Do you remember the scene with the cars at night? Where the cars are trying to see the mesmerizing sequence? Yes. So his father would show him this stuff, see? And so we have, for example, on this film, he turned me on to the Mills Brothers.
Is that right?
Yes. Now, I have to explain, I knew about the Mills Brothers quite.
They're in the ink spots, Marty?
The Mills Brothers from the ink spots to the Flamingo, you know. So I'm saying, and then you listen to Louis Jordan and Ella Fitzgerald. I said, of course.
Did you used to show actors and invite them in and just have them watch a lot of films as part of your both friendship and as part of what you wanted to infuse with each of them?
Yes. On this one, I don't think we did much. I don't think we...
He didn't send you and say, you ought to watch this or this or this.
No, we didn't need to.
Because he'd already watched most of them.
Yeah, we didn't need to. It's Sweet Smell of Success really is the key, you know. Yeah. Sidney Falco is like the Jordan Belfort character, you know. Yeah. But we didn't really need to.
Before this? Or not?
Yeah, absolutely.
At his suggestion, or...
I'd seen it beforehand. No, but I think this film was... different in its approach. Films like Aviator specifically. I mean, we watched film after film, sometimes just to get the specific tone of one sequence. But, you know, this film was, I think, a little bit different and more radical. And like I keep saying, it was this real discovery process to see what would happen. You know, if we put ourselves in that environment and you know, gave the actors the freedom to do what they wanted. It was very experimental in that way.
Yeah, and for example,
maybe
spontaneous.
Right.
For example,
go ahead. No, but like the Matthew McConaughey.
Oh, McConaughey.
I mean, these. I mean, I remember the day. Well, it's almost like you know, his character is you know, bringing me into Dante's Inferno. He's the messenger that is bringing me into the depths of hell. You know, and you know, Matthew came up to us and said, I have an idea for this scene, and he brilliantly came up with this sort of rewritten monologue that was so outrageous. Marty immediately said, yes, do that, but then this sort of chest thumping thing that he did that became the almost mantra of greed.
Well, you pointed it out to me.
God, I remember.
You pointed out to me, you say, he's doing something that in between takes. And I think it's a vocal exercise. I said, so listen to it. So I listened. I said, do you think he should do it? I said, why not? Let's try it. And then he went with it and started adding sort of like hesitant bird calls. I don't know what the hell you were doing.
But then he continued and he made it almost like this 80s rap at the end of Wall Street. And then we kind of took that theme and we were doing my sort of final speech to the troops. And that became the mantra of greed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it was that fun.
It was the mantra of greed.
Yeah.
You're
And
right.
it became this... But that, like I said, that was what it was like on set. It was a very free atmosphere.